Ride one of the country's most distinguished dinner trains. Visit the country's oldest baseball park and enjoy the splendor of paradise on earth. All this and more as we explore historic Boston from a duck's eye view on this edition of Coast to Coast.
Coast to Coast, MediaOne's only original program that takes you across the country in search of exciting adventure. I'm Jennifer Babine.
And I'm Paul Melaragni. Today, Jennifer and I will be getting a duck's eye view of the city of Boston on board the Boston Duck Tour. It's a unique way to see the city, its art, its architecture, some of its legend, and some of its lore.
That's right, Paul. Not only will we be waddling our way through the streets of Boston, but we will also be cruising along the Charles River aboard one of these amphibious vehicles, otherwise known as a duck.
That's right. And all the while, the conductor will be giving us humorous accounts of the places in Boston that have made this city the cradle of American freedom. But right now, Jen is talking to Andy Wilson, the owner of the Boston Duck Tour Company. She's finding out a little bit about how this popular tour got started.
Paul, I'm now chatting with owner Andy Wilson. Andy, tell me, how did you come up with the idea to provide a tour to tourists that not only drives through the city streets of Boston, but also on the Charles River?
Well, I discovered the concept in the Midwest, and I realized it'd be perfect for Boston. Boston with its natural beauty on the Charles River and its historical significance and beauty on land. This combined all the elements, using the duck as a stage, a rolling stage that is, and making a tour about freedom, fun, and first, and taking the fights for freedom here and making it fun, because freedom happened here first, a lot of firsts happened here, and combining that with the wonderful views on the Charles. And it works.
There are a lot of trolley tours in the city of Boston. I think there are 4 other companies or so. How did you come up with the idea to get something different, something that was not only going to drive on the streets but in the water, and where did you get those vehicles?
First of all, I decided I wasn't in the transportation business. I said I'm in the entertainment business. And a trolley brings you and picks you up and drops you off when you want to get off. And my analogy is kind of like a movie. You know, if you're sitting in a movie theater and people are getting in and out of the theater and you're getting in and out and you're coming in at different points of the movie, it's very disruptive and it ruins the experience. So I decided to have just one continuous tour. And so that was different in itself. And in terms of where I found the vehicles, there are 3 successful, long-standing duck tour businesses in the United States, and I toured all 3 of them, and the one in Branson, Missouri, had done the best job in terms of taking this World War II 50-year-old equipment and restoring it and making it safe, reliable, and aesthetically pleasing.
Where is your background?
Well, actually, I'm an accountant, by training. Well, what had happened was I was executive at a financial company here. I was a vice president, and I was working 100-hour weeks, and I hit the wall one day, and I said, this isn't, you know, it just wasn't for me anymore. And that was back in 1992, and actually how I discovered the concept is I quit my job. I had $50,000 in the bank, and I bought a 90-day Greyhound pass that allowed me to do unlimited travel. And along the way in my travels, I ran across the duck tour concept. And
it's stuck.
And it's stuck.
And are you having fun now?
I'm working hard, but I'm having a lot of fun.
Let me ask you, have you ever been to Michigan?
Yeah, actually I have.
Have you ever ridden the dinner train tour through Michigan?
No, I have to say that I haven't.
Well,
it sounds interesting.
It is actually world-renowned. It wins lots of awards, and actually we can take a look at that right now.
A trip back in time, you think? A unique adventure in dining and entertainment? That's what you'll receive from one of Michigan's top attractions, the Michigan Star Clipper Dinner Train.
We are, and I am proud to say, the leading dinner train in the United States for the following reason, is that there is wonderful dinner trains dispersed throughout the United States, but they aren't all really encompassed like we are in a full package. When one comes out, not only do they have a wonderful 5-course meal that's prepared specially for them right on board, the package is also with professional entertainment. And when you put all that together on an extensive multi-million-dollar train that is riding on first-class rail, then you have a truly one-of-the-kind in-the-country situation. We have been here since 1984, which is something we're very proud of. Walled Lake itself has grown tremendously. We are only actually 6-7 minutes via car from the I-96 Novi exit, which of course is right by the Novi 12 Oaks Mall. But Co-Rail is very community-minded, such as our landscaping. We took an 1887 depot, and with no historical funds, out of our own funds, so we would not tap the taxpayer. We took this wonderful depot. Instead of tearing it down, we expanded it and beautified it, what we believe is very, very much of an accent to the community, in the ambience of the community. To me, a community does not exist without any business working together. Not too long ago, about 4 or 5 months ago now, we got rated one of America's top 200 most romantic restaurants, which is in a wonderful book called Dining by Candlelight, which is also in the Library of Congress's library. And we are with AAA National, not just state, national, which I push that because it's really a nice recognition that not everybody gets. We are 3 Diamond. We are known as being one of the top attractions within the state of Michigan.
Co-owners of the Michigan Star Clipper Dinner Train and Co-Railroad are Judy and Larry Coe, 2 people devoted to service, community, and making the patron happy, seeing to it that every detail of the experience of a night on the dinner train is perfect.
I gotta make sure old 725 here is working well, make sure she's got her oil and her water and everything, and just make sure she's ready to go.
And then you make sure she's all stocked with coal so you can shove it in the fire while the train's running.
I do check the diesel fuel, but no coal on this one.
Now you've got the engine all polished up and ready to go. How many cars will she be pulling when we get ready to head out on the dinner train tonight?
We'll be pulling 8 cars. We'll be pulling a caboose, a power car, kitchen car, 2 sleepers, and 3 dining cars. We'll take off, and an hour later we'll be in Wixom. I'll shove back through Walled Lake. We'll hit West Bloomfield about an hour and a half after that, and we'll come back in 3 hours after we departed, and it takes about 3 hours and 10 minutes.
It's part of American history. It's part of American, just the home apple pie stuff. And that goes back to a statement made back, and I'll never forget it, from a woman who, at the time, we only had the Co-Rail family train. She got off the train off the very first day of opening, which, by the way, there were 2,000 people here that day. And she had a tear in her eye. And she said to me, "Thank you so much for bringing this here to Walled Lake." She says, "This is so apple pie."
The Michigan Star Clipper Dinner Train caters to many events and is a great gift idea for that special occasion or holiday celebration. So, Judy, how can they get a hold of you?
2 ways. Certainly by calling, which most patrons do, at area code 248-960-9440. If they call the phone number that I mentioned and mention Amy's name or MediaOne, we will be glad to extend to them, we'll give them the details when they call, a very special discount just by saying MediaOne. And we will extend that through, let's say, because I am really doing this at just last minute sitting here and having the delight to speak with you, let's say the rest of the spring and all of the summer. And we do have special hours we will have to cut off on that certain days, but we will make it very, very accommodating to them.
So take a step back in time and enjoy a ride on the Michigan Star Clipper Dinner Train. Through rain or sleet or snow, the train will make your celebration all that more special. For MediaOne Coast to Coast, I'm Amy Otto.
And I'm Chuck Roberts.
Paul is now talking with duck tour conductor Salty Magoo. Paul, how many ducks are quacking through the city today?
Well, Boston Duck Tours has a fleet of 16 of these ducks and a whole crew of drivers to go with them. And each one of the drivers seems to have their own shtick or own character. I'm standing here with Salty Magoo. And Salty, Tell us about your character and your shtick here.
Okay, I answer up to the name of Salty Magoo. I'm supposedly the blind tour guide. That's why I have my walking stick and everything, but it's not because I'm blind. I spend so much time in the open water, my depth perception gets thrown off, and when I get close to shore, I simply forget objects around me and I don't pay attention.
What's it like being a duck driver? Is it one of the best jobs you could have?
I think it's one of the best jobs. It's a real hard job, but we really enjoy it, and the people respond to us. And Boston's such a great city to talk about. We have no problem with that, so it's just a lot of fun.
You have people from far and near coming for these tours, I'd imagine.
A lot of people ask me that question, where the people come from. We have a lot of local people, but we also have international travelers come aboard. So many people know about American history, and this is where basically it all started and stuff, so we have to deal with all kinds of travelers from all over the world.
The Massachusetts State House, the original section there, that red brick section with the gold dome, had its cornerstone laid July 4th, 1795. It is the oldest building we have on Beacon Hill, designed by our first American-born architect, Charles Bullfinch. Now, just in January of this year, they celebrated this building's 200th birthday, and it is a working State House. And in doing so, they painted it up and everything. They also put a brand new layer of gold leaf up there. There's 13 new pounds of gold leaf up on the summit. Now, one of our unsung American heroes, the statue of that person is over here underneath the tree, sitting down over here. Her name was Mary Dyer, of Quaker faith. Truly, the first victim of 3 strikes in a row. She was kicked out of Massachusetts twice because of her religious beliefs, and when she returned on the 3rd time, they didn't let her off the hook. They hanged her on Boston Common just because of her religious beliefs. And it was through her efforts we wound up with that amendment, freedom of religion.
You'll be carting around a lot of people this summer. How many people do you think you'll cart around yourself as well as the whole fleet here?
Okay, with my tour schedule, I think I'm going to carry about 18,000 people, and we'll probably carry approximately 400,000 people total for an 8-month period this summer.
Wow, fantastic. Tell me a little bit about the Duck World War II vintage vehicle here.
It's an authentic World War II vehicle. There are over 20,000 built. They're all built between the years 1942 to 1945. It's a General Motors vehicle, and one of the biggest pleasures we have is many of our riders have served in World War II actually have been ashore on these things, both women as well as the men.
Wow, and the Duck Tour goes through all parts of Boston, the Charles River, the whole bit.
Boston Duck Tour's making that big splash. Come on, folks. Yahoo! Woo! We got a good one. We're going to get some water up the back, too, I think. Oh, not quite. One other thing, I want to finish up with the Museum of Science, because that is such a nice take over there. They have all kinds of affirmative exhibits. They have a planetarium over there called the Hayden Planetarium. And on this end of the building, they have a very unique theater. It's called the Muga Omni Theater. It's 4 stories high. It shows the movie wrapped around in front of you in panoramic view. And they always have specialty movies. And when you want to know what's playing, you check the marquee up overhead. And the one that's playing there right now is called Mount Everest.
And you need a couple of different licenses to work this vehicle, don't you?
Yeah, a lot of people come up to me and ask me, can I be a duck driver? And we'd like to say, just jump into the game there. One of the things we need is, first of all, we have an acting coach on board. We get to develop our own stick. We have historians available to us. We have to learn all about Boston. To be a driver, I have 4 different licenses. I'm a registered Coast Guard licensed captain. I have a commercial driver's license. I'm registered with the Public Utilities Commission, and I also have to have a Hackney or taxi cab driver's license.
Boy, it sounds like your whole salary would go to those license fees.
Well, it's pretty involved, and we also stay current on our CPR and first aid as well.
Wow, that's great. You a Red Sox fan?
I certainly am. Everybody is this time of year in Boston. We've got pennant fever once again.
That's right, we do, and they're doing pretty well this year. Tell me, you have a little anecdote about Fenway Park, don't you?
Sure. So many people come to Boston, and everybody, I think, has heard about the green monster, the big fence in left field, and many of the home runs are hit right over that fence. The next time you watch a game on TV, you watch the ball go over the fence, and you'll see a big Sitco sign in the background. You just simply say, "See it go," instead of Sitco.
You get it? See it go, Sitco? Salty Magoo, if you are a visitor to Boston, you definitely don't want to miss Fenway Park and the Green Monster.
The Boston Red Sox, as we know them today, first began play in the Huntington Avenue grounds in the south end of Boston, Massachusetts. It was there that the first World Series was played and won by the Sox in 1903. Boston continued as a baseball powerhouse for many of those early years, to the point that their first stadium was simply too small and out of date for the team. Given that, then owner John Taylor decided to build a new stadium in the Fenway area of the city. So-called Fenway Park first opened for the 1912 season. Renovated in 1934, the park has aged well throughout the years and now stands as an icon in the American sports scene. A baseball destination rivaled only by Chicago's Wrigley Field, it's more than just a sports venue. Fenway Park stands as a national tourist attraction and one of the biggest draws in New England. Here now is your chance for a look beyond what a simple tour or trip to a game would provide you, a behind-the-scenes look at Boston's own Green Cathedral.
Welcome to Fenway Park, home of the Boston Red Sox. Built in 1912, Fenway is the oldest ballpark in all of baseball. And in today's tour, you'll get a chance to see some behind-the-scenes glimpses that you wouldn't normally get if you came to see a game. This is the Red Sox dugout. This makes for a very interesting perspective that most people don't see of a game is from below ground here. One of the aspects over here, the most famous parts of the dugout is the bullpen phone. That's the phone that a manager would use to call out to the bullpens in right field and bring in a new pitcher as necessary. As you can pretty much think in all of the history of Fenway Park, many of the Red Sox greats have sat in this very same area, all the way from Ted Williams and Kari Yastrzemski up to today's players like Mo Vaughn and Pedro Martinez have sat around here during games. And these are the bullpens here at Fenway Park where the pitchers would warm up during games and prior to games. There's also one behind us, behind that green wall over there. These were actually added in the 1940s as a home run target for Ted Williams. Ted, being a left-handed power hitter, would often hit out to right field, and the bullpens were added so that he would have a shorter target for home runs. And of course, in his last at-bat as a Major League player, Ted Williams hit a home run into these bullpens. And this is the famous red seat out here in the right field bleachers of Fenway Park, where Ted Williams hit his longest home run at Fenway Park, 502 feet from home plate, which by way of comparison is about a football field and a half. It's a story about a gentleman who was sitting in the seat with a straw hat on. Ted Williams hit the baseball, and the guy wasn't paying too much attention. Baseball went through the man's hat and off the top of his head. And apparently, from what I'm told, the man is actually still alive. He still has the hat and the baseball that Ted Williams hit off the top of his head. And here we are, of course, at the Green Monster, one of the most famous landmarks in all of baseball. The scoreboard that you see behind me here is one of the last original manually operated scoreboards in baseball. There are two guys who actually stand behind this wall inside the scoreboard during games, and they hoist up steel plaques that have all of the scores and pitchers' numbers for the line score for the Red Sox games and also for the other league games that are over here behind me. They have no heat and no air conditioning inside that box. As you can imagine, in April and May, when it's really cold here, they're freezing. And in August, when it's 100% humidity and 100 degrees, it's pretty darn warm in there as well. One of the aspects of the scoreboard that I like to point out are the Morse code dots and dashes here. On this one, the Morse code reads TAY, and on the one further right, it reads JRY. These are the initials of the former owners of the Red Sox, Thomas A. Yawkey and Gene R. Yawkey. So in some ways, the Yawkeys are still here in spirit on the scoreboard. The Yawkeys actually used to, when the Red Sox were away, sit out here in left field and have picnics, listening to the away games on transistor radios and looking for four-leaf clovers to wish the Red Sox luck, which they must have found in '67 and '46 in those years. Back here we have the rest of the manually operated scoreboard with the line score for the Red Sox games going up to 10 innings. And all the lights that you see down here actually are operated from the press box where we visited earlier. One of the public address announcer actually hits all the lights for runs, hits, and errors. And here you see the slots in the press box where the areas which the guys who work inside would look outside to monitor the game, although they do have a direct feed by their phone line up into the press box so they can get more accurate readings of what's happening than what they can see from ground level through here. The wall itself is 37 feet high, 240 feet long from left field to center field, and it has a 23-foot screen on top. The screen was added in the mid-1940s because baseballs hit out in this area would clear the wall and start breaking the windows and hitting people on Lansdowne Street behind. The screen is very difficult to hit over now. The whole wall total is about 60 feet, but it does still happen from time to time where baseballs will go over it and land across the street or in the street. And occasionally some kids actually stand outside on Lansdowne Street with gloves during batting practice hoping for baseballs to come over. And finally, over there in the corner, we have the foul pole in left field, which is where Carlton Fisk hit his famous home run during the 1975 World Series of Game 6. That's the foul pole that he was waving at as he ran down the line, hoping the ball would stay fair, and of course, in Game 6, it did. Well, there you have it, a behind-the-scenes look at Fenway Park, the oldest ballpark in baseball. Thank you for coming on our tour today, and I hope you had a good time. Now, Fenway Park is just one of the many, many tourist sites here in the city of Boston. Jen is learning about some of the other tourist sites that are on the Boston Duck Tour, and the fact that there's quite a bit of history behind this tour.
Well, Paul, I'm here with historian James Capillo. James, tell me, why is it important for Boston Duck Tours to keep a historian on staff?
Well, Boston Duck Tours takes great pride in having a tour that is historically accurate. We're very proud of our city. We want to educate people who come to visit our city so that when they leave Boston, they'll have an appreciation for the city's culture, its neighborhoods, its people, and its history. You know, we played an important role in the Revolutionary War. This is the birthplace of freedom in America, right here in Boston, and we're very proud of that.
Now, it's interesting because I've grown up around Boston my entire life, and until I took the tour, I didn't realize what a gem the city of Boston actually was and how much history it did hold. What are some of your favorite highlights in the city as far as history goes?
Well, I think some of the people from Boston who are now known the world over, people like Paul Revere or John Kennedy, Sam Adams, John Hancock, are very interesting people. Benjamin Franklin was born here in Boston. So I enjoy telling people stories about these individuals. For example, Paul Revere. Not many people know that in addition to being a silversmith, Paul Revere made false teeth. And during the Revolutionary War, he built a factory to make gunpowder for the rebels. John Hancock was Boston's wealthiest citizen. Everyone knows he signed the Declaration of Independence first, but he was also our first elected governor after the Revolutionary War.
What are some of your favorite sights in the city?
Well, I enjoy the State House because it's a really unique building. It's a beautiful building. It's a lot of fun to tour the building. They have great guided tours up there. It was the first State House built in the United States after the Revolutionary War, back when we still had, well, at that time we had 15 states. Kentucky and Vermont were states at that time, and so when our State House was completed, we had 15 states. But we were the first new State House in America after the Revolutionary War.
This is such a fun way to learn about history. I think when people hear it's a historical tour, their first impression might be it's dry, it's textbook, but it's interactive. It's a lot of fun. How do you add that special element to the tour?
Well, we look for three things. Freedom, fun, and first. Our tours are always fun. We talk about freedom, the role that Boston played in the freedom we have today in America. And first, a lot of things happened here first in America. Now, you may not have known this, but we had the first newspaper, the first commercial bank, the first sewing machine, the first chocolate factory, the first automobile in America was built right here in Boston. So there are a lot of firsts here in Boston.
And it's exciting to learn about those firsts. But you know what, James? As much as I love the city streets of Boston, I do love a tropical vacation. How about you?
Well, in the wintertime, yes. I would prefer to be down south.
Let's take a trip right now, actually, to Hana, Hawaii, to have a little fun in the sun and see what that is like.
Hawaii. Known for its beautiful beaches, indescribable sunsets, waterfalls, tourist attractions, history, and much more. Hawaii is perhaps the most perfect place on Earth to spend a vacation. On the island of Maui, the pace is more relaxed, even though there are many things to see and do. From snorkeling around the coral reefs and swimming with sharks to exploring upcountry on horseback, there are many activities available to the visitor on the Valley Isle. One of the most beautiful and isolated areas in all of Maui lies at the end of the Hana Highway. Beginning in Kahului and ending in Hana, this road takes approximately 3 hours to travel, but you will be rewarded with some of the most beautiful scenery and waterfalls in all of the world. Viewing of the waterfalls is not limited to the ground. Helicopters are available to take you where the road cannot. Spectacular views are guaranteed. Back on the Hana Highway, you will travel through a rainforest, as well as along sheer mountain cliffs that will send a chill up your spine. That is, if you dare look over the side, hundreds of feet down to the ocean. This bumpy, twisting road covers some 600 sharp turns and traverses some 56 one-lane bridges over its 51 miles to Hana. Be careful not to blink, because you may miss the view of a lifetime. Once you reach Hana, a mandatory stop is a Hasegawa General Store. There you can sample everything from native food to tourist trap souvenirs. And who knows, you may even bump into a Hollywood star or two. Among those that have sought out Hana's beauty and isolation include Jim Nabors, Barbara Eden, George Harrison, and Mike Love of the Beach Boys. But perhaps the most famous person who chose to spend his final days in Hana is Charles Lindbergh. He is buried on a bluff overlooking the ocean in the Palapala Humau Congregational Church in Kipahulu, just south of Hana. It was from this tiny chapel in 1974, with just 13 people present, that the greatest aviator in history was laid to rest. Hundreds of people from all over the world come every year to pay their respects. It is a beautiful and serene place. Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis hangs to this day at the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Whether your interests are sightseeing, windsurfing, boogie boarding, cruising, or just plain hanging out on the beach, Maui indeed lives up to what the locals say. Maui no ka'oi. Maui is the best. From Maui in the Hawaiian Islands, I'm Jim Capillo for Coast to Coast.
Well, that footage is simply gorgeous. Paul, Hana, Hawaii does look like paradise to me.
It was beautiful. I think, Jen, for the next edition of Coast to Coast, we may have to go on location in Hawaii. What do you say?
I'm up for that, absolutely. We can be coast to coast plus the islands.
That sounds good. We've had an absolutely great time here in the city of Boston today on board the Boston Duck Tours. We've seen just about everything that there is to see by land and by water. We've seen the Massachusetts State House. We've seen Old North Church.
Public gardens, the public library, just to name a few.
That's right. And Jen got to drive the boat.
Yes, I did. That was my favorite part of the day, driving the duck through the Charles River. You also had an opportunity to drive the duck.
I think I made a few people nervous. Were you nervous?
I was one of those people. I was nervous when you were going through the bridge.
I think Salty was afraid I was going to hit the abutment, but...
You cut it pretty close.
I did okay.
We're going to go under this bridge, right, Paul?
Yes.
Okay, we want to make sure we go under it, not through it.
What's that?
Okay.
Well, we had a great time for this edition of Coast to Coast. I'm Paul Melaragni.
And I'm Jennifer Babine. Thank you very much for joining us today. We'd like to also thank Boston Duck Tours for being our host for the afternoon. So until next time, thanks for watching. Take care. Goodbye.
Goodbye.